I got a fever, and the only prescription is more Warpstone. The flesh change is upon us. As the spawn of Chaos and Malagor the Dark Omen lead the Beastmen into battle against Arkhan the Black and the Tomb Kingers. We've got mutated piggies, flying chariots, boner giants, cow clopses, and a war kitty. Should be a fun showdown at Warpstone Crater, and this one gets pretty insane. We're sticking around to the end. Uncle Rico the Cygor can throw a waystone clear over them mountains. They're gonna get things started off with a boulder barrage on the chosen of the gods, Ushabti. The Highland Hunter is playing as the Beastmen, nor Dinosaurius is playing as the followers of Nagash, and this can be a pretty challenging matchup for the Cloven Ones. Same principle applies we've talked about before. Big, armored, terror-causing single entity constructs make Beastmen sad. Tomb Kings have gone for a pretty tall build here, all things considered. Bone Giant and Ushabti for the artillery duel, 3 or 4 Tomb Guard actually, and a Khemrian Warsphinx. Arkhan the Black is basically naked except for Spirit Leech, and both players are kind of content to sit back now, snipe, and watch how things play out. And the one thing I'll say about that is the Beastmen have 2 Cygors, and the Bone Giant is meant to counter them, but a Cygor could lose half its HP and still be killing at peak efficiency, which cannot be said for Tomb Guard or the Nehekharan Warriors. So even though Arkhan has a ton of firepower here, it might not be in his best interest to sit back and trade, but we'll see how things shake out, because already Centigor throwing axes are getting very aggressive, and they are getting mowed down by the chosen of the gods Ushabti, and then sliding around and asserting dominance with their T poses. That probably needs to get fixed. That looks really, really ugly. So, yeah, it's basically Viking invasion and American gods. The Cygors or the Centigors are getting absolutely torn up. Looking at the build for the Beastmen, 2 Cygors, Chaos Spawn, and Malagor the Dark Omen with Vile Tide, bunch of Gors, and 4 Throwing Axe Centigors to have a bunch of AP to get through those constructs. So yeah, these Centigors are getting absolutely destroyed. They're staying in the pocket. They've done some good damage to the Tomb Guard Halberds already, but they've already lost more than half the unit, and they are going to run screaming to the edge of the map. Don't know if we will be seeing them again. Now, I wouldn't call this a hyper-efficient trade if you're the Beastmen, but there is something to be said for making the followers of Nagash turtle up, sit still, and engage in this artillery duel. And if you push all your Centigors to the other side of the map and force them to stand still and get into these artillery fights, it might end up working out very well for the Beastmen, because they have a lot of high-value infantry. I mean, they have 1 Nehekharan Warrior and 4 Tomb Guard. That's quite a lot to be spending on your infantry for the Tomb Kings, and that means the Cygors have a ton of chance to generate value by smashing apart the infantry with massive boulders. Arkhan the Black can, of course, whittle down the Centigors on the flanks with his Spirit Leeches. That's why he's brought it. It's really actually a very cost-effective way to use him. You just have the 1 damage spell, you don't have your Lich Staff, you don't have any of the other things going on, but Arkhan can tear up infantry, and basically he's just given more time for his chosen of the gods to destroy these Centigors out on the flank. So already 2 of them have routed off. Chosen of the gods now focusing on these, and I think Highland Hunter at this point might want to think about retreating. I mean, he's lost a lot of Centigors already, and if you want to get through that War Kitty or through Arkhan the Black, the Tomb Scorpion, or the Bone Giant, throwing axes are going to be the way to do that. If you lose all of your Centigors early on, it's going to get pretty rough pretty quick. But you can see, I mean, again, these trades are not bad at all. Tomb Guard down to half HP, another Tomb Guard down to half HP, 3 of them actually. They've lost a ton of models already, and that's a lot of killing power the Tomb King simply cannot get back. That said though, there is 1 Cygor that's down to about a 3rd health, maybe a 4th, and the Bone Giant might be able to kill it off in a couple more volleys. So I think, yeah, it's looking like followers of Nagash are going to move up now. They realize they're not really getting the better of these trades, because the Cygor is still smashing apart the Tomb Guard, and they're going to move and get into melee combat. Now, at the start of this match, that would have been a great place for them to be, and they had a clear-cut infantry advantage, but I think this is one of the stronger ways to deal with the Tomb Kings, is going double Cygor if you're playing as the Beastmen, and forcing them out of that defensive turtle shell formation. Tomb Kings love to sit back and snipe you to death with Ushabti Great Bows, with Screaming Skulls, with Bone Giants, and if you can force them out of that comfort zone, force them forward, then some of their constructs and other high-value targets become a little bit more exposed to your flanking and your maneuvering, which of course is where the Beastmen really shine. So they're still sitting still. They're still trading. Chosen of the Gods have gotten an insane amount of value already. They've essentially killed off 3 full Centigor Throwing Axe units. But with that said, it's given so much time for these Cygors to throw in and destroy the infantry that it might very well be worth it for the Cloven ones. Uncle Rico just took a Bone Giant arrow to the face and said, you know what, screw that. Here's a boulder. And again, it's going to cause some serious carnage on the Tomb King's battle lines. The throwing axes aren't making things any easier for those skeletons in the rear. Bone Giant just barely gonna miss right over the head of those Centigors who are about to rout off. But there's still one more unit and they've got half their ammo left and getting some decent value throwing into the Bone Giant too. So followers of Nagash really just need to push up at this point. The Tomb Scorpion and the Khemrian Warsphinx are untouched. They're going to absolutely eviscerate huge portions of this Beastmen battle line. But the Tomb Guard are going to do a lot less than they would normally be able to because they're charging in at about half strength or worse. So Ungor Spear Herd going into the Skeleton Spearmen, Tomb Guard following it up, and there are still a few units of full strength Tomb Guard. Here come the Chosen of the Gods, completely out of ammunition, so you might as well use their mass to prevent the Chaos Spawn from running roughshod through your battle lines. And Arkhan the Black alongside a War Kitty, yeah, that's gonna get real brutal, real fast for the Cloven ones on the left side. Malagor sitting back, and he wants none of that action. He's running away. And here we go, that beautiful bounding animation. War Kitty just playing with the Beastmen toys, and that's gonna be 15, 20 dead off the charge alone. This Khemrian Warsphinx is a force of nature in this matchup and might be a little bit worried for the Beastmen here because they've already lost so much of their armor-piercing potential from their Centigors. Ushabti summoned behind the Ungor herd, looking like they just want to break through these battle lines super quick and start getting into the squishier stuff in the rear. Tie down those Cygors who still have some of their ammunition. And where's the top half of your body, Mr. Ungor herd? Yeah, Kopesh is going to slice them in two. And these infantry are not going to be able to stand like this particularly long. Fear in their rear. Bunch of Tomb Guard on their front. They're sandwiched between a rock and a hard place. And the Ushabti are going to carve them up for supper. It's getting nasty for the Beastmen on the right flank. So they're going to lose on this side, probably, I would think. Or at least they're not going to trade particularly cost efficiently when they've got constructs slicing into their butts. But over on the other side where the constructs are all focused, yeah, things are a different story entirely, and the Cygors are starting to think about closing into melee, and they need to, because the Khemrian Warsphinx, Arkhan the Black, and the Bone Giant, Tomb Scorpion as well, will run roughshod over this battlefield entirely if they are not used in this capacity. And that's a nice thing about Cygors. They're just so incredibly versatile. We've already seen their amazing infantry killing potential with the boulders, with the thrown waystones, but they also have great weapon strength and decent melee attack values too, so being able to double in close quarters battle is extremely important, extremely effective, and they're going to go after the constructs for now. Chaos Spawn seem to be on their last legs. They're getting torn apart. Looks like the Beastmen on this side are about to rout, and now we're going to have a huge construct and monster mash on this side of the battlefield. Malagor the Dark Omen down to half HP. Razorgore Herd are routing off, but I think they'll come back, and they're an important tool here. That mass they bring to the battlefield for tying down a construct or preventing Arkhan the Black from escaping, super important. Cygors holding the line for now, but the Kryptonian Frost Breath from the Khemrian Warsphinx might be able to push back this infantry. Beastmen do have a full surround off, and the Centigor is about to get a rear charge too. Traitorkin, Spirit Leech going down rather on Malagor the Dark Omen, and Tomb Guard look like they should be able to finish off the rest of these Gore herd. They were full HP when they made it in. The only Tomb Guard to not be gifted by the blessing of waystone boulders thrown across the battlefield. Chaos Spawn, there's one model left in that unit. Tomb Scorpion still in good shape. Bone Giant is not though, but as we know, it doesn't really do particularly well in melee. More just for the terror and for the HP sink that it causes. We got Razorgore Herd coming in after Cygor, and they're going to completely stuff up Arkhan the Black and his charge and give the Cygor more time to rally, which is huge and exactly why people bring Razorgore Herd in this matchup. Arkhan the Black is locked down like a penitentiary. He cannot move. Completely surrounded here. It's giving more time for the Cygor to come back, and they need that Cygor to come back if they want to deal with the rest of these constructs, which are still looking pretty damn healthy. Arkhan has taken about 1,000 damage in the last 10-15 seconds, fully surrounded by all those angry piggies. And here comes a rear charge, which might just tip that Bone Giant over the threshold into serious crumbling territory. But a haymaker from the Necrolith Colossus was enough to knock over a Cygor, and we might be seeing that a lot this battle. Cygors and Giants get knocked over a ton when they're fighting against the Tomb Kings, and it's one of the biggest issues they have. So even though they are great units, still a problem if you're constantly on the ground and getting knocked the F out. Arkhan the Black and the followers from the Gash still fighting it out. Their infantry have been decimated by the Bray herds, and it's up their constructs now, but that was to be expected after we saw the shelling, the creeping barrage that came in at the start of this battle. Khemrian Warsphinx, Arkhan, and the Tomb Scorpion still looking pretty healthy, but the Necrolith Colossus is about to crumble out, and one more stomp might be enough to shatter it for good. 100 HP, and it is gone. Watch out, watch out, watch out! Ow. That sucks if you're that gourd. You just got chopped in half by a falling Bone Giant. It really blows. Tomb Scorpion and Khemrian Warsphinx fighting back to back. Now, this is where you really want to have your Centigors with throwing axes, man. So, there was good and bad with the idea of letting the Centigors stay in the pocket and trade with all the artillery. But this could be a problem if you're the Cloven ones. How do you finish off the Khemrian Warsphinx? Now, the leadership for all these constructs is about to go down because Arkhan the Black is about to go down. And honestly, he probably should have been skirting around the periphery of these engagements a bit more. He hasn't been doing a ton of cycle charging. Kind of been stuck in the fight for a long time against Cygors. And he's feeling the effects of that. And Nagash is not going to be too pleased with his lieutenant's performance in this one. I mean, he got plenty of kills, but he did not need to die that easy. And as he runs, he's out. He's done. Gonna take a dirt nap. And Arkhan the Black is out of the picture for good. That said, there's a Cygor with a sliver of HP left. Tomb Scorpion still looking relatively healthy, I guess. The Chaos Spawn is still somehow still alive. That's amazing. Malagor is routing. The big question, can the Beastmen get through a Khemrian Warsphinx and a Tomb Scorpion? This is what they struggle with. This is why they want that Gorgon. This is why people bring Gorbles, even though they do get tossed around like ragdolls all day long. Owl Gorble flying across the horizon. Happens every time. But you need something to deal with these constructs, and even though they massively outnumber the Tomb Kings at this point, bringing down a Khemrian Warsphinx from 2/3 health is really difficult when one of your Cygors is about to die and you don't really have a whole lot of tools outside of that. This Tomb Scorpion is done though, and it's looking like Highland Hunter might be able to take this game. But he has one more mountain to climb, and it's a tall one. It's Olympus Mons. It's Mount Everest. Deal with the War Kitty. Not a whole lot of tactics left to pull out of the bag at this point in the battle. It's pretty much send everything directly at the Warsphinx, surround it, and hope you have enough. Balance bar is definitely in the favor of the Beastmen right now. To be honest, the balance bar is always in favor of the Beastmen. They have a very weird balance bar that I've never been able to explain. I have no idea why it works that way. Full surround off here. Looks like the Warsphinx might begin crumbling, but look, it's got something up its sleeve. There's no way it's going down without a fight. And here we go. Oh my god, just sends out a huge swath of the army flying away. And that's going to precipitate a mass rout for the Beastmen. They're packing up and they're leaving. They're outie. They want none of this. Terror routes all over. Cygors one hit from death. And it's pretty much just the Cygor and Malagor the Dark Omen. Everything else is running. Tomb Kings are right back in this game, man. Malagor is going to try desperately to escape. This is where he would really love to have actual wings that function. He's like, God damn it, CA. Why didn't you let me fly? I don't want to be here anymore. Warsphinx is going to just trample him. And there's one thing War Kitties are super good at doing. It's demolishing foot lords and infantry. Massive attack value with that bonus versus infantry. And yep, the Dark Omen's dead. Frost Breath destroys him for good. And now both leaders are out of the picture. Which leaves the Cygor. And that's actually the only unit left on the field that's not running. Now, if you're the followers of Nagash, you want to make sure those Ungor herd don't come back. So I think he's making the right play here. Nor Dinosaurus going after the Bray herds, going after the infantry, firing some shots from the Tomb Guard up top. 4 arrows fired, 3 Ungors drop, and I think maybe 1 or 2 charges, cycle charging, should be enough to shatter these Ungor herd. You don't see the range attack actually do things very often, but they're getting a ton of kills right now. Yeah, that's gonna finish them off for good. That'll do, pig. That'll do. So, it's a clash of monsters, a clash of titans now. Khemrian Warsphinx, not a lot of health left against a Cygor with not a lot of health left. Now, the Cygor is definitely healthier at this point, but as the duel begins, immediately off the charge, we're gonna see the impact that extra charge bonus and extra mass has on the Cygor. If you're a bipedal cowpocalypse monstrosity, you don't like fighting Khemrian Warsphinxes because you get knocked over a lot. And it does make sense, honestly, that the Khemrian Warsphinx would weigh more. It's made purely of stone and hatred and anger. And the Cygor is just kind of blubber. Muscle and stone weighs more than fat. It's getting really close. Whoever routes first. If the Cygor routes here, it's over. If the Cygor routes, this game is completely over. Knocked over the 3rd time in this duel. Khemrian Warsphinx is super close to crumbling out. In terms of HP, the Cygor will win, but it's all about the routing. He just stabilized, barely, and 1 stomp brings the Warsphinx down, and that'll be the game. He was a second or 2 away from routing, and the Tomb Kings would have taken that battle. Everything else was shattered. Nothing else rallied. So that got as close as physically possible. If the Cygor routes there when he gets knocked over, it's game. But he managed to stay in the pocket. He stood back up and he took down the Warsphinx and won the game for Highland Hunter and the Cloven Ones. Crazy battle, and you can see the value those Cygors generated. They were amazing, both in terms of their melee capacity and their ranged potential. I mean, they were just dropping boulders from on high all game long. One of them, 200 kills, essentially. A bunch of chevrons earned on both as well. Now, I think the unsung heroes of that battle, Malagor was not very impressive. I would say the Razorgore herd. He only brought 1 unit, didn't get a ton of kills, but they single-handedly did 1,500, 2,000 damage to Arkhan the Black when he was trying to run roughshod on the back line and just destroy infantry. And that is why those Razorgore herd are so cost efficient and so good at what they do. High mass, high AP, terrible melee attack, terrible leadership, but it doesn't matter. All you need them to do is get a full surround off on a high value single entity and they will pay for themselves very quickly. We saw it there. Might have won him the game, because if Arkhan the Black stays alive for a little bit longer, that could have definitely changed things for sure. Khemrian Warsphinx was a force of nature as well. Chosen the gods who shopped, who were amazing at killing those Centigors, and the Tomb Scorpion was also tanky in the center. Great play from both players. Great battle overall. Super enjoyed it. And there will be plenty more of this multiplayer action coming towards you guys very soon. See you next time. Indie Pride, signing out for now.